Hey guys, welcome back to another video today. So this is Amen Clothing YouTube channel where we use patterns to teach you how to create unlimited design, just like the one you can see on your screen. So if that's what you want to watch, then keep watching this video to the very end. Do not forget to subscribe, like this video, and share to other platforms. Okay, so this is a structured design on a corset. You can make yours as a bustier, and you see the explanation as we go on in this video. If you have a hip curve, I will advise you use it for that structured design so it doesn't look straight like mine. So let's head straight to it. So you'll be needing your basic bodice front, and I'm gonna head to impute my basic darts. Okay, so right now I'm going ahead to impute my bust circumference. I've been explaining bust circumference to many of you. So if you're new here, like this is the first time you're coming to my channel, drop a comment and I'll tell you what bust circumference is all about, or I'll link it to a video where you can see a tutorial of bust circumference. So I've imputed my bust circumference, and the next thing we're going to be doing now is to impute the necessary contour guidelines. Okay, why contouring? Because we are having a sleeveless or a bust. We're having a bustier that is in form of a tube, a strap bustier. Okay, so the need for the contour is so that it lays on our chest without any gapping on anywhere. So you have to contour because you're not going to be adding sleeves. You have to contour it so it stays firm on you and not pull off or not gap. So I'm drawing in my contour lines at the neckline. Okay, drawing my contour guideline at the neckline. I also have a detailed tutorial of how to impute contour guidelines. If you want to see that, drop a comment in the comment section below. I've imputed my shoulder contour guideline, okay, which is the one I'm drawing now. I'm also going ahead to impute my armhole contour guideline. These are the three basics contour guideline, including that of the underbust, that we'll be needing for this very tutorial. Okay, so I'm going ahead now to draw in the darts for the contour guideline. I'm marking 0.2 inches. The mannequin is actually a small one, so for an adult body, I think for an adult body, yes, you should be marking 0.4 to 0.5 inches. So this mannequin is on a smaller size, so I'm marking 0.2 inches. For an adult body, you want to mark 0.4 to 0.5 inches as your contour darts. Okay, and I'm going ahead to draw it in like so. So having drawn in my contour guidelines, we'll be doing same thing to the other side. This is what they look like. Okay, and I haven't done that now. I initially wanted to start manipulating my darts, but then I remembered. Please remember to impute your contour guideline for the underbust. Okay, I actually imputed it, but I didn't know that I wasn't recording. You'll see that as we go on in this tutorial. Okay, so I've opened my side bust dart and I'm going to be closing all the contour darts and opening them at the side bust darts that I opened initially. What I mean is that I'm going to be closing the darts of the contour guideline and opening them at my side bust dart, which is obviously open now. So I'm closing up my contour darts and opening them at my side bust dart. Okay. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do well to subscribe, like this video, and share it to other sewing platforms where it will be needed. So I'm going ahead to close up my contour darts. I'm obviously opening them at my side bust dart. Okay, If you do not know what an underbust contour is, you're going to be seeing it as we go on in this tutorial. Also, I have a detailed tutorial for that, which is also same tutorial for the contour darts. Okay, so if you're confused about bust circumference, contour darts, and underbust contour, drop a comment in the comment section. Okay, so having done that, I'm going next now to draw out my neckline, because we are having a kind of a sleeveless neckline, not kind of, it's a strap. Okay, a strap neckline. So I'm going ahead to determine how deep I want my neckline to be, and for the sake of this tutorial, I'm marking 5 inches. You want to use whatever it is that's comfortable for you, and as a modest fashion designer, I do not leave cleavages, and I will not advise you to do that. So 5 inches is okay. You can put your tape at the midpoint of your shoulder and take it down to know which point is better for you. So having done that, I've also drawn a straight line, and that straight line is the length of strap that I'll be needing for the front. I'm going to be taking the measurement, and I'll write it down somewhere so that I do not forget it. So this is how the current bodies pattern should look like for the strap. Next thing, we are going ahead now to manipulate our darts. Okay, and as we go on, I will tell you the various methods you can use to achieve this if you do not want to put it into a corset. So that design went in like so, and I'm going to try to trace to get that same exact shape. But before then, the very first one at the top, the very first structure detail at the top, is on top of the bust circumference, which is close to the neckline. Okay, it's close to the neckline. So I'm marking 1 inch on top of my bust circumference all the way around like so. I'm marking 1 inch on top of my bust circumference all the way around like so. The very exact part where that structure detail went up, I'm marking 1 inch from my bust circumference on top of it. So I'm using my pen to make this line visible so that you guys can see it more clearly. Now, considering that design that went from the underbust like so to meet that very one, I'm using dotted lines to trace it out, and if I'm comfortable, if I like what I did, I'll use my pen to make the lines more visible, and that is what I am doing right now. I'm using my pen to make the line more visible. Like I said, for the structured detail, I just used a straight design. If you have a hip curve, I will advise you use your hip curve to get the structured detail. I'll also tell you how to do that as we move on in this tutorial. So you can have those curves. Mine looks straight because I just used the straight a rule to get it straight, but when you use a hip curve, I think you'll be having curves. I'm very sure about that. So here is it now. You want to measure the distance like this to get your structured detail. Okay, you want to measure the length of that curve, which is going to be your first structured detail. Okay, now for the second one, I'll go ahead to mark in the second structured detail like so. I said to get the structured detail that is on top, you have to measure the length of the very first curve that you made. Okay, same thing applies to the second one. After you're done imputing the style line, you also measure it to get the length of the second structured detail. Okay, so I'm going ahead now to impute my underbust contour. The reason for this is to make the underbust to be firmly fitted at the underbust. Same thing I'll be doing to both sides. And I'll be using my ruler to curve it like so. Like so. I'll be using my ruler to curve it like so. So yeah, this is what it looks like. Okay. And after doing that, I've gone ahead to draw in the design for the second one. Okay. So after that, after measuring the distance, the length of the two structural details, we'll start manipulating the dart. Now for the manipulation of the dart, if you have a problem with corset, you can decide not to make yours as a corset. Okay, you can decide to make yours as a bustier, but I used corset because I felt that is what is going to be easier for me and make the style more prominent. Okay, the very actual one, which is the inspiration, was beaded to cover up every other thing. And I'm very sure that is a corset. It was beaded to cover up every of the corset lines and details of the sewing, so you do not figure it out. Okay, so that is what I'm doing right now. I'm manipulating my darts for me to get the corset shape. Now, there is no specific way to go about this. If you know, however, you can do it from what we have here, so you can be able to sew in the structural details. That is the actual reason. That's the main reason. Then you can go about it. If you want to follow the exact way that I did mine, that is fine. Okay, so you have to watch closely to see what I did. I'm going ahead now to remove the waist dart and the underbust contour darts. So having removed that, okay, you want to join these two parts together. From the underbust to the waistline, you want to join them together. Okay, just like we do for a normal corset. So I'll be using my ruler to cut this from the underbust line, and I'll be joining it to the other side. So this very line that I'm cutting open now is where you're going to be attaching the first structured detail. Of course, you have to cut it open to enable you sew the first structured detail. That is why we are cutting it open, okay, to enable us sew the very first structured detail. Please, you want to watch this please very carefully so you can understand what I'm doing. So as I'm cutting, I'm also trying to make sure that everything I'm doing is in alignment, okay? So like I said, if you don't want to use a corset, you can just sew this up like so, then join your structured detail. But I decided to use a corset. So if you're afraid of using corset, you can just sew up from that side, that dart there, and then attach your structured detail, okay? So this part now is a separate one. The down part, which is where the waistline was joined to the underbust, is on its own like we do for a normal corset. So I'm going ahead now to keep manipulating the darts so I can arrive at my final pattern, okay? So I've separated all this like so. Because I want to use a corset, like I said, I'm going ahead to remove the corset so it can be separate on its own. I know this very particular method will be difficult for people, especially the beginners. So if you're a beginner, you want to sew it as a bustier, not a corset, and then attach your structured details. So at this point, I'm trying to figure out which way is going to be easier or how I'm able to attach the second structured details. Okay, which easier way? As you can see, I'm trying to mark significant points so I don't misplace any pattern or I don't put a pattern in the wrong place. Okay, that is what I'm doing. I'm trying to mark points that will enable me not to put my patterns in the wrong place. Now I'm opening the space for the second structured detail like so. And as well removing the corset for the other side. So I found out that I made a lot of cut here and I'm using my tape to tape down the parts which are not necessary. The parts where I need to be in full or in whole, I'm using my sellotape to hold them down, okay? A lot of cutting is going on in this very design, you guys. So you want to be very careful. If you must make this, you have to be extremely careful. You have to be really, really careful if you must make this, okay? Careful in your sewing, careful in your patterns, careful in everything so you can get a very neat result. If you must make this, you really have to be careful. So at this point, I think all my patterns are set out. I'm trying to work on the corset. Okay, at this point, I was kind of getting confused, and then, but thank God I was actually able to pull through. I'm working on the corset right now, which is actually going to be the final stage of this pattern drafting. So I'm done with this very particular side. So I'm removing every pointed area in the corset because you don't want it to become pointed. You want the corset to look as natural as possible. So that's what I'm doing here. As well, I'm trying to fix it. Of course, you can't fix it exactly the same way it is because these are patterns. When you start sewing, every dart will fall in place. There has to be opening here, but when you're sewing, the darts will fall in place. So I went ahead to cut in fabric, and this is what it looks like. So we head straight to the sewing process, which I'm also going to be explaining now. So firstly, you want to attach the corset to this area, the first part of it, okay? Like I said, this very structure detail. Mine is straight. Please use a curved rule to get yours. If you have a hip curve, best use it to get yours so you don't have that straight effect. Okay, mine is straight and I figured that it wasn't the right thing to do. So now we're going to be attaching the structure detail on the bust, on the cup corset area like so. I marked a notch for where I'm going to be starting my structure detail and where it's going to stop. So I'll advise you to do same. Okay, so I haven't done that. I'm gonna have to fix that up. This is what it looks like, you guys. Like I said, please use a hip curve. Don't use straight roll for your structural detail. Use a hip curve so it's kind of curved and wavy. Okay. So I haven't done that now. This is next thing we're going to be doing. I'm going to be attaching this very particular area. And I haven't attached it. I also went ahead to sew in the second structural details on it before we attach the other corset of the second area. And I haven't done that, we're fixing the underbust area that has the waistline on it. And that's basically all for this very particular design. So after attaching this part, you want to fix in that area that is the underbust and the waistline, and that is it.